Hello and welcome to the Republica Unicornia podcast. I'm Kathleen. I'm the head yarn wench of Republica Unicornia. I'm an independent yarn dyer, a project bag maker, and an all-around creative hot mess. It is strange to be here. It has been a minute. I have not recorded a video in insert time period. What is time anyway? It's just been busy, fun busy, but I was going to talk about one of my latest finished objects, and I was going to record a short video, and I was like, well, I have all this other stuff I can talk about, so here I am. It is good to be here. I have many things to talk about. I have knitting, I have sewing, I have life stuff, I have shameless self-promotion, all of the things. So before we jump in, just a little bit of housekeeping reminder stuff. One, I'm not calm. So if you are looking for a gentle, soothing podcast, I am not the person for you. I am hyperactive chihuahua crafting energy. So if you are here for that, settle in, get comfy. There may be some mild to moderate swearing. I don't censor myself. And so if you find the full use of the English language offensive to your delicate sensibilities, you are welcome to clutch your pearls. Elsewhere, there are lots of people who can control their vocabulary, and I'm just not one of them. So that's kind of it. Yeah, I have notes. Look, oh, it's upside down. It's got a kitty on it. I've got notes. I am drinking coffee, so it's only going to get more hyperactive chihuahua from here on out. It's probably going to be long, so buckle in. I know y'all don't care, but I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm having an iced Americano with a little bit of milk in it. And I was so tired that I made my first pot of coffee without putting water in the bottom reservoir of my stovetop espresso maker, which means I had toasted no coffee, so I had to do it again. So, okay, well, we're just going to jump right in. I'm just going to start with knitting, and I'm actually going to start, since I did promise over on Instagram like an hour ago that I was going to post a video talking about my latest socks, because there's not a pattern and I kind of wanted to go through stuff, so I'm going to front load that. So if you are here for that, you can do that at the very beginning and not listen to me yammer on for an hour about everything I've been doing for the past 4 months. Not really everything, just some things. So I have been on a fancy sock knitting kick. I was always a vanilla sock knitter. I learned how to knit socks pretty soon after I learned how to knit. And pre-pandemic, I would just like knit socks everywhere. It would be like in the car on a road trip because I can knit plain stockinette in the car. I would knit them standing in line, like when we went to concerts, but then the pandemic hit and we didn't go anywhere for 3 years. And I just kind of like vanilla socks bore me. I always keep one pair at least on the needles in case of, going places and doing things. But I really haven't knit a lot of socks. And then I think it was in maybe like April, I knit a pair of fancy socks and I was like, oh, these are really fun. Because I knit exclusively sweaters last year. Like I knit quite a few sweaters, but I knit giant projects. And I think my brain needed something that was a little more instant gratification. So I've been knitting fancy socks. So I knit a pair of socks that had cables and lace. I knit a really beautiful pair of socks that have a cable pattern, and I was really enjoying it. So my favorite thing, if you don't follow me on Instagram, which that's fine, but if you don't, like you may not know this, is I really love knitting brioche. I learned how to knit brioche several years ago, and I did not have an easy start with it, but I love it. I'm an advanced enough knitter that I get bored. So I really love knitting brioche. And I was like, I wonder if I can make brioche socks. And I went on a search and I couldn't find very many brioche sock patterns. There aren't many out there. And the ones that are out there tend to be a little more simple. I found one that I really liked, but it was a toe up afterthought heel construction. Whatever the construction of the sock was is not my preference. I like a top down heel flap and gusset. I have really high arches, like you can slide your hand under the arch, like when I'm standing flat, you can slide your hand under my arch. So the way that top down heel flap and gusset socks fit my feet really well, and so I've never felt the need to learn anything else, and I'm also stubborn. And because I learned how to knit socks, I've been knitting for like 6 weeks, it's just in there. So I looked at this pattern and I loved it, and I noticed that the designer, I usually buy, and I was gonna buy the pattern, and then I saw the construction, I was like, I'm gonna have to redo it anyway. I'm all about supporting designers, but if I have to completely re-engineer the pattern. And the designer shared that the stitch pattern was from Knitting Fresh Brioche by Brioche Queen Nancy Marchant. I think that there's a couple books This is the second one. I actually need to get the first one. And it's got projects in it, but it has a stitch dictionary. And I was like, well, I can just find a stitch pattern that I like and map it on. And it's actually ended up being different than the designer's pattern. I'll link it below because I'm not a jerk. If you are a toe up, different kind of heel person than I am, you may really enjoy making them. So I found a stitch pattern that worked with my stitch count and went from there. So I'm going to talk about what all I did on these socks. So it's kind of a mashup of, I used the cuff from the Unicorns and Peacock socks by Alex of Left Sock Best Sock, who is like one of my favorite humans, and she designed the pattern in my honor. If you are new to brioche socks, I highly recommend trying that pattern. It is incredibly well written. Like, Alex is really good at what she does. Super well written, and it's not full 2-color brioche. It is actually one color. Most of it is 1 color half brioche stitch. So if you are new to brioche, it's a really good way to kind of get used to the mechanics. I don't think knitting brioche is that hard. My fabulous friend Kristen, who got me into knitting, explained it. She's like, it's a lot like ribbing. And once you start to realize that it's a lot like knitting ribbing, it gets a little bit less complicated. I will say brioche is easier if, like me, you are a continental knitter, because when you do the slip-on yarn over, it's like the same motion for everything and you don't have to think about it. So if you are a continental knitter, brioche may actually be even a little bit easier. So the Unicorn and Peacock socks has a really great, I don't know if you can see it. This is actually half brioche stitch, and the cuff on it is so good that I've started using it on my colorwork socks. So anytime I have a sock that has 2 colors, I'll do this because I really like a brioche cuff. So it is a 64 stitch cast on. That is my normal stitch count for socks. I have tiny feet, but that seems to be what works best for me. So your stitch count may differ. And I did the twisted German cast on, so there's a little bit more stretch in it. And I did a contrasting half brioche cuff. That is the one from the Unicorns and Peacock socks. And then I did contrasting heels and toes. Okay. So it's a 64 stitch count. The other thing I have learned is brioche grows a lot because it's like a poofy ribbing. So it's going to grow a lot when you wear it and block it. And so I did go down a needle size. I'm a really loose knitter, but I normally knit my vanilla socks as 64 stitch count on size 0 needles, and I did these on double zeros. It sounds like, brioche takes a minute because you're doing each row twice, so it's going to take a minute anyway, and it's on smaller needles. I was not in a hurry. I was having a nice time, so that's fine. I did use magic loop. I have come around, after years of being very resistant, I have come around to magic loop, especially for things like pattern socks. I've always used I think they're actually 10.5-inch circular Addy Easy Knit needles that have like the one needle that's a little bit longer, so it's not like a 9-inch circular where you're knitting with like basically toothpicks like this. The Addy's one's a little easier to hold, but the tip isn't very sharp and it doesn't give you any, they're small, so you don't have any wiggle room. So I've actually started switching to magic loop as I've been knitting more complicated socks, because I can use my Chiagu needles that have that pointy tip. I use the 5-inch, I think they're 5-inch tips. I did get, it's gonna be long. I have a lot to say. This is why I couldn't do it on Instagram. So I did get for my Chiagu interchangeable needle set, I did get the like smaller circumference, so like the tips that are a 00. I think I got a 00, I got zeros, I got ones, and I got 1.5s, because I'm starting to knit, like even color work, when I knit color work sometimes uses the smaller sizes. So I got those, and they have thinner cords, which turn out to be amazing for magic loop. Better than the fixed ones because they're like really, really thin. So that's what I used. So it's 64 stitch count, twisted German cast on, half brioche stitch cuff from the Unicorns and Peacock socks. The actual brioche stitch pattern is Optic Waves from here. Now, if you're gonna do like a DIY sock pattern, which I did, all you really need to know is the multiples of repeats. So that did not make sense. Let me try that again. Yeah. So if you think about any kind of pattern or brioche pattern or any kind of pattern, there is a number of stitches in the repeat. And so you just have to make sure the math works out. So I had a 64 stitch sock to work with, 64 stitches to work across, so I picked a stitch pattern that was 16, and so there's actually like 2 repeats on the front and 2 repeats on the back, and because it all looks great. So that's just something to keep in mind. So if your stitch count differs, you're going to have to maybe do some math and figure out your multiples like you did in the 5th grade. And I'm sorry, but it's going to be okay. So I did that. So the pattern is on the, it's all around on the leg. I'm going to take it off the sock blocker. I don't know if that's a good idea. We're going to find out. So the pattern, goes all the way around on the leg. And then it's a slip stitch, heel flap, gusset, usual stuff. And then in the sole, so the sole is actually knit in striped because when you do brioche, you do one row in your main color and one row in your contrast color. And so that is what that is. So it's striped. So if that's not your thing, there is a way to work around it, but it is a complicated way. And I was not going to do it. So the brioche pattern continues down on the instep. And so the bottom is striped. I actually like how it looks striped, especially if you're using high contrast colors. And because they're only one row, they're not like chunky. And you don't have to worry about like, because, you know, it's a striped stockinette here and then brioche here. So you don't get that weird jog that you get if you're trying to knit stripes in the round. So I like it. So the other thing to keep in mind on these is weirdly, and I can't quite figure out why, because it seems like it'd be the opposite. Since brioche is so stretchy, you would think that if there was going to be a difference in row gauge, it would happen like the stockinette would be shorter than the brioche, and it is actually the opposite. So I don't know how things work. I'm not a designer. So I did end up working, and you can see them. I ended up working short rows when I got to time to decrease from the toe. So you can see like this, imagine it's on needles. The brioche side is short. The row gauge is a lot shorter than it is on the sole side. So I did end up working short rows, which was kind of a figure it out thing. And I wrote it down, and then Microsoft Word crashed and deleted my changes. So I had to fudge it and figure it out in the second one. It worked fine, but I was mad. You would think, I am an elder millennial. I have been having Microsoft Word lose my work since I was like 8. I will never learn. So anyway, so I did the short rows. And if you are a super like, I don't know if this bothers you, you can see there's a difference, but it really, like, you really can't see it when it's on. And honestly, I don't care that much anyway. And if I'm like looking, I'm not going to look, I can't see the bottom part of the toe of the sock. Like, it's just, I don't know, it's just not going to bother me. So, and then, so you work the short rows and then you start decreases. So that is, I think that's it. Yarn is mine. It is Republica Unicornia BFL sock in the gray, like it's the main color. The gray rainbowy prismy color is Chelsea Morning, and the blue is Constant as a Northern Star, both named for Joni Mitchell songs. I pulled this yarn, I dyed this yarn and then pulled it for a different sock pattern a long time ago, but I really like it. I am incredibly pleased with these. I had fun. I'm not a designer. I will say that over and over and over again. But as I've become a more advanced knitter, I'm more likely to sort of see something that I like and figure out or find like an existing pattern that I like or a chart that I like or whatever it is, or have an idea. And I'm starting to be able to map it onto things I already know how to make or onto existing patterns. So I get a little, it's more like I feel like it's more like customizing. And I'm never going to publish this pattern for a lot of reasons. One, again, I'm not a designer. I don't really have that part of my brain that works. And I don't know that I have thorough notes, but I don't know that it would make sense to everybody. And I have zero interest in providing ongoing pattern support or having people get mad that I picked a 64-inch sock because that's what I knit. And, like it's not my thing. I have plenty of other things to do. So there's not a pattern for this. But if you are, and if you've knit a bunch of socks, you can absolutely figure out how to customize your existing sock technique and things. I do really recommend this book. The Stitch Dictionary is amazing. The patterns in it are beautiful. I really, like I said, I need to get the first one. And actually, if you, like a lot of designers I knit a lot of brioche. Basically, if it is a designer who does brioche patterns, I've probably knit their patterns because I like doing it so much. I believe that Nancy Marchant lets everyone use, like, it's a Stitch Dictionary, and so people will credit her. So, even, I think Stephen West has used her patterns. And anyway, she's brioche queen. So glad she's doing her thing. So I loved these. So this is the Optic Waves. And yeah, I do recommend it. It's really kind of empowering. it's interesting, since I learned how to sew, I've gotten a little more adventurous in my knitting, and a little more like, oh, well, I can understand this basic concept. So like, what are things I can do to customize it so it's like fun for me and something that I really want? And so that's what I did. So we are going to transition into my whips. So that is this sock. So I was frantically finishing these because I dyed a new colorway, which I will talk about later. But I dyed a new colorway, and it needed to be brioche socks. So I kind of rushed. I was like that last one. I was like, I can do it. So I enjoyed that so much. I was like, well, I'm going to do a different stitch pattern. So I did. Okay, so these are the ones that I currently have on the needles. This is from the book, it is the Wide Flat Cables. That is the name of the pattern. Again, another reason I'm not going to publish these, so I can just call them whatever. So this is the Wide Flat Cables. Oh my gosh, look at it. This is actually an easier to work pattern. The Optic Waves has some more decreases. I mean, it's not hard. If you've ever done brioche increases and decreases, you can handle it. But this is actually even easier and easier to memorize. So this one's kind of zooming. So look at that. Gosh, the texture on brioche. If you have never squished brioche in public, I mean, I have, but in person, it's because it's basically a two-sided fabric. And the socks aren't reversible because of the cuff, but you can see the inside. So having a lovely time. I will talk about this later, but this is the new colorway that I could not wait to get on the needles. This is an existing colorway. This is Gravitational Pull. But I am having a very nice time with my Malibu Barbie brioche socks. Very for me, because I am a child of the 80s and early 90s, is I can't, when I think of Barbie stuff, I don't think of pink. I think of like neon coral and turquoise. So I'm having a nice time. So same deal, doing the same thing, just really, really fun. I think they'll also make good shop samples. It really is a way. One thing I like about socks is they're a really good way to feature hand-dyed yarn. You have fewer of the complications you can have, like if you're knitting a giant chunk of stockinette in a highly variegated hand-dyed yarn. You don't have to worry about dye lots. It's just a lot. Socks are they're a great way to enjoy it. And you can also get a lot of entertainment out of not a ton of yarn. The socks the Optic Wave socks, I think used half a skein of each color. So you can, if you are on a yarn budget and you live in the real world like a lot of us do, you can get a lot of bang for your buck. So those socks are bringing me great joy. I also cast on, I have some whips going on. I've been knitting socks, but I have not wanted to knit a garment. Well, I dyed a new colorway that I have been trying to get to happen for such a long time. There are certain colors that are just hard, just like a good red, like a red that's not too pink or orange. That's a hard one. I have been trying to get the perfect burnt orange for a very, very long time, and I did it. It looks like it's the same color as my hair. My hair's a little more red. So here it is. And I'll talk about it. I'm going to do shameless self-promotion, so I'll talk about it a little bit more. But here is the new burnt orange. It's called Ramble On, after the Led Zeppelin song, because we love Led Zeppelin. Studio jams all the time. Also Lord of the Rings. Lord of the Rings and Led Zeppelin together in one banger of a song. It's this color, and I have wanted a cabled cardigan in the perfect burnt orange for years. And I actually bought this pattern almost 2 years ago. And it's going to blow out because I'm in the studio. The light's weird. Sorry. It's not too bad. So I cast this on a couple of weeks ago. This is the Jones Cardigan by Tin Can Knits. I love Tin Can Knits patterns. They are always well written. They are just clear and detailed. The formatting is really good. The size range is amazing. If you buy a Tin Can Knits pattern, you get from infant to fully grown human in the same pattern. I have made baby knits out of their stuff. I think my first 2 sweaters were their patterns. So huge fan. The Jones cardigan is a all over cabled cardigan. Well, I it's not all over cabled. It is cables interspersed with these panels of moss stitch, and it has a shawl collar, and it's lovely. It's like the perfect classic sort of grandpa cabled cardigan. Very much my style, will fit in my wardrobe, and it's going to be in the perfect burnt orange. The pattern is super memorizable. That's not a word. It's easy to memorize. This cable is one of my favorites, like this particular cable, and it's an easy to work cable. So, it's not fast, but it is on DK weight yarn. It's going to be incredibly cozy. I'm hoping to have it done by the fall. But yeah, I'm really enjoying working on it. So between like this and my Malibu Barbie neon socks, I am having a very nice time knitting. So yeah, highly recommend. Just really love a tin can knits pattern. It's just so, I love when I get the color I've been dreaming of. It's amazing. There it is. I was looking for my glass nail file. It was in my project bag. Crafting with ADHD. Okay, so that's that. To my notes. Oh, this is the other thing, is like I'm getting close to 40 and now I can't, like I need reading glasses. I've had glasses and been crazy nearsighted since I was 7, and all of a sudden I'm like, I just can't see anything. Okay. Let's talk about sewing. Garment sewing has been a little on the slow side. I basically took the entire month of May off, and I had such a nice time sewing, and I made a bunch of stuff and I've worn it, and I feel like I've already talked about it. So garment sewing's been a little slow, but I do want to talk. There's a couple of things that I do want to talk about that I've made and some plans that I have. So I have really been enjoying lately. I like dresses in the summer. I live in Georgia. It is hot. I like airflow. I've always liked to wear skirts and dresses in the summer. So that's kind of what I've been focusing on. So there is a pattern designer. Her pattern company is Jennifer Lauren Handmade. She is from New Zealand. And I have made several of her patterns, and everything has turned out beautifully and just like right in my style wheelhouse. So her aesthetic, a lot of indie pattern designers, their like style is not really my style. The sort of, I don't know, like basic boxy or like really trendy. It seems like those are the two options. And I'm really loving finding designers that sort of lean more into vintage. And Jennifer Lauren Handmade absolutely does. So if like vintage is not your deal, you're probably not going to enjoy her patterns. Vintage is very much my deal. Now, she does tend to go a little more 50s and 60s, whereas mine is more 30, at the moment is more 30s, 40s. But a lot of it kind of is so just mid-century that it works. And I just have had such a lovely time. One thing I really, really love about her patterns is she drafts for different cup sizes. I have no boobs. Like, I am really small chested. I am a scant A cup. Like, I'm a small human with small tits. And so usually in sewing patterns, they're mostly drafted for a B cup, and like, I am not a B cup. And so I have to do a small bust adjustment, which is a normal sewing pattern adjustment. It's also a giant pain in the ass because you often have to move darts. So if it's a darted pattern, you have to move darts around. You have to, because of the way that you do it, it changes the length of things. So you have to add length back in. Like it's not, bust adjustments are not fun. It's not like taking a little bit up at the shoulders like I also have to do. It's not like that. I mean, they're just really frustrating. And so she drafts a variety of cup sizes. So I think it goes from an A to an F cup, and there are 2 size ranges. There's like the regular and the curve, and instead of just scaling everything up for larger sizes like a lot of people do and call it size inclusive, she actually I think knows what she's doing and drafts, like I think there might even be a different block. Like she's drafting well. I have never had an issue with any of her patterns. I made one of her pinafore patterns like right after I started sewing, no problems. They fit well. I do have to do a couple of things in the shoulders but that's not a big deal. But they have nice finishing, but not fussy. And I've just really enjoyed them. And they are the kind of like right in my style wheelhouse, which is tailored, put together, but also really comfy. So I think most of her stuff has waist ties. So you just kind of, can tie it as tight or as loose as you want. And I just have really been enjoying it. I'm going to show you on hangers, the two that I've been making, that I made, that I really, really like. But I will put a link into my Instagram post so you can actually see them on me. So, and it's going to be a little hard to see because of the pattern. This is the kinfolk dress. Yeah, it's going to be super hard to see because of the pattern. Whatever. It has grown-on sleeves. It has a, oh gosh, this really is hard to see. It has a belt. It has a waist tie. It's got princess seams, which again, you can't see. But it's really cute on. And I'm obsessed with this fabric. It has, oh, and all of her stuff has generously sized pockets. Like, we're talking big old pockets. And I love it. I needed to do a couple of fit things, and I could have even done a little bit more. I think her stuff is drafted for someone who's broader in the shoulder than I am, and I have to do the petite bodice adjustment because I always have extra fabric here. My normal stuff. But anyway, I love it. My label says, it's a Kylie and the Machine label, and it says, sewing is the fucking best. I've worn this tons. It's crisp. It's cool. It makes me look like I'm dressed when I'm really just wearing a comfy. Love it. Gosh, I really am. Not a podcast. I am not a YouTuber, y'all. This is the other one that I made. This has been on my list for years. This is also one of hers. This is the Asteria dress. I'm gonna actually, maybe if I could see it back. So it has a square neckline. There's an option for a collar, and there's an option, you can also do it button front. I did not do it button front on this one. And it has box pleats, which I really love. And it has pockets. I freaking love this one. And I'm trying to figure out if I love it so much because I love the fabric and the drape of the fabric, or like that's the perfect match for the pattern, or if I really, really love the pattern. Though as it stands, I did not do the narrow shoulder adjustment, and so the sleeves are a little drop sleeve. The actual inspiration is like 60s mod, and for stylistic reasons, with the slightly dropped shoulder, it like reads pure 1930s. I am like, it's very, I even rewatched all of The Sound of Music to figure out what dress in The Sound of Music it was. I think it's just got like Maria at the Ball vibes, possibly Liesel vibes. Like, it gives Sound of Music, which right in my wheelhouse. The fabric is a now out of print, sadly, cotton lawn from Mustard Beetle. It's a Birch Organics. It's Mustard Beetle for Birch Organics. Ooh, it's gonna be hard for me to ever wear anything that isn't cotton lawn again. Cotton lawn is a really tightly woven fabric, but it's like cloud. It is a flowy, light cloud of cotton. It is so comfortable. It feels so good on. You can see the drape is beautiful. I have started hand hemming. I am not a fussy sewist. Like, I use a serger. I am not going to, flat fell or French all of my seams. I have a serger for a reason. I think they hold up. It's a strong, easy seam finish. It holds up really well in the wash because I'm not precious about my clothes because I live in the real world. But I have started on things you can see. I've started hand hemming, and it has just really elevated my sewing. Like, I don't think anyone's like, oh, you hand hemmed your skirt hem. Like, nobody cares. But it's something I notice, and so I've started doing it, and it allows me to take a little bit more time with my garments. I have been sewing enough that I can churn them out probably faster than I would like to. So I did hand hem the sleeves and the bottom hem, which was a lot of skirt. But I love this. I am planning, I have a fabric on the way to make another one. I have a cotton sateen. So I'm really curious to see if I like it as much in the cotton sateen as I do in the lawn. But it is just, this is a demure dress. I am not a demure human, but I feel so pretty in it. Like, it's just, and it's like that perfect, like 1930s Art Deco-y jade. Oh, also it has bees on it because we love a pollinator. Bees. So I enjoyed making it. It was, nothing about it was frustrating. The box pleats were really kind of fun. I have been doing, which I'll talk about in a moment, I've been doing something that has a lot of box pleats, so I was like, I'm on my box pleat game. I didn't do a great job pressing them. This was my sort of first draft wearable, not really a wearable muslin. I did do a bodice mock-up, but not really a wearable muslin, just kind of a first draft, and so I wasn't quite as careful as I could have been, but you can't tell when I'm wearing it. So that's the Asteria dress. I love it very much. It's been worn a lot because it's just, when it's hot, that like floaty cotton lawn and like all the pleats. Oh, One more thing, I did add 4 inches to it. As written, it is short, and it's drafted. I'm 5'2", and I think it's drafted for someone who's 5'6" or 5'8", and like I was not comfortable. I don't like my knees out. I think it's because I'm 5'2". All of my, like, whenever I buy straight size stuff, everything is longer on me, and I'm just not comfortable. It's like, it's not a modesty. I don't care. It just, like, I don't like my knees out. I'm just uncomfortable. So I did add some length to it, and so it's more of a midi length, which is very much me. So I will put that link below so you can see the finished object. So I made some dresses. The other thing I did in my time just playing at the sewing machine, I have wanted to make this. I bought this pattern. Okay, it's not been that long. Last year. I bought this pattern. It's a bag pattern. And it was a bag pattern I knew I was not going to make for the shop. And I have been obsessed with it. I spent an entire day cutting out pieces for the first one, and I was like, oh shit. Like, if it takes me this long to cut out pieces, like, it's a big deal. So I cut out pieces for this bag and shoved them in a 2-gallon Ziploc and put them in my, like, pre-cut pile for 8 months. Finally got them back out. So I'm not going to show you the first draft. It is, and I'm going to start with the big one. There are 2 sizes to this pattern, and I'm going to start with the giant one. This is the Maker's Tote by Noodlehead. Noodlehead does really beautiful bag patterns. Very thoughtful detail, all of the interfacing, like, they feel really professional. I even did a beginner pattern. I was like, okay. Like, I make bags for a living. I was like, I'll be fine. I was fine, but I was glad that I had the expertise that I did. That's not to put you off. Like, I'm also a perfectionist about this stuff because, again, I do it for my work. So this is the Maker's Tote. A friend of mine made me a smaller version as a Christmas present several years ago, and it's like one of the best gifts I'd ever received. And after making it, it absolutely is one of the best gifts I've ever received. So I am going to go through and give you a tour of the bag and then talk about the process of making it. So it has a snap front pocket. So that's that. It comes with, the pattern has a zippered back pocket, but getting a zipper installed through a window of fusible foam was hell and not worth it because it wasn't a pocket I was going to use. So I've been ditching that, which is fine. So it has this pocket. The binding is it's a bias binding that you machine sew on and then hand tack down. So there's like a lot of hand finishing. But it looks super nice. Well, I can see all my mistakes, but it looks nice. It has, oops, I'm gonna take my pin off because I can actually open this. Hold please. Okay. It has, and you can use any zipper you want. It has this really beautiful zipper binding, and, we gotta focus there. And it has, you use a separating zipper, so it gives you more space. So to be clear, this is a large size. It is freaking luggage. Like, it's huge. It's huge. It's also unwieldy. So it, what is that? Oh, it's a face mask. So it has, this is the box pleat. I was talking about making all the box pleats. So it has pockets with box pleats that are huge, and then it has slip pockets on the other side. It is a lot of bag. It uses fusible foam, which is a really, like, a very fun, like, if you want your, I'm gonna sound like a Southern sorority girl, which I'm not, but I'm gonna sound like one. If you're familiar with, like, Vera Bradley bags, how they feel, that's foam in there. So it feels really, really professional, and it uses fusible foam and also Pellon 803, which is one that I use in my bags. It's like it's beefy. So it's a beefy bag. It is not, this is a serious project bag. It is not recommended for beginners at all. Like, that is not to scare anyone off. If you are a more patient person than I am, you may be just fine. I was so glad I've sewn as many bags as I had. And the pattern says that. I was really glad I've sewn as many bags as I have. And I'm really glad I have a Juki TL2010Q, which is considered a semi-industrial sewing machine. It is a straight stitch only machine. It's what I use for bags and basically at this point almost everything because it's freaking amazing. But, like, the Juki's a beast. And there were parts in this where, like, the Juki was on the struggle bus. So just something to keep in mind if you are working with a lighter weight machine. I think you could probably do it, but the fusible foam is, because it's thick. So, depending on what your machine can handle. Like, I swear just using fusible foam elevates a project to an advanced project. Like, I don't... That was what I did the other day. I made like a Noodlehead pattern that was like the beginner, it's called the pedal pouch. I made one for my hairdresser, and I was like, why is this so hard? I was like, oh, I think it's probably because I'm using this interfacing. So just something to keep in mind. It's a project. This is not a whip up in an hour. This is also not, as someone who makes bags for a living, a sell bag. There's no way I could ever sell these for anything near what they're worth, but they are making excellent gifts. I have given a couple away. I made this exact one. I made one for me and one for my mom. So it's kind of nice. And since I make bags for a living, it's nice to make them not for a living because I really enjoy a bag. So I'm having a nice time. I think it might be one of the highest callings of really great quilting cottons. I'm obsessed with this. I saw this one on Spoonflower and I literally cried because it's so good. It's Mrs. Grossman's sticker pastel neon unicorns. Like, I can't. The cotton sateen I have coming for the Asteria dress is a smaller scale of this in a more blue leaning colorway, and I'm so excited. So this is the large size. I also made a small one, which you may have peeped when I was doing the other one. The small one's a lot more manageable. It's still a lot of sewing and a lot of fabric and a lot of interfacing. Like, they're an investment of a lot of things. But this is the other one this is the small one that I made for me, and my favorite fabric in the history of ever. This is the fabric that got me to sew. I bought pot holders in it, and then I bought a project bag in it like right after I started knitting. It's out of print, but I scored on Etsy from a D-stash 5 yards of it. So there's like 5 yards of it in my life, which is very exciting. I just made some project bags out of it too, because I had a little bit more, because the last time I could score some, I got 5 yards of it. I'm obsessed with it. It's this like neon suit, like the dark navy with the like non-creepy unicorn. It's just like right to my 90s child Lisa Frank soul. Ugh. So anyway, favorite fabric. So it has, I don't know if you can see, it has a rainbow lining. It's got rainbows and unicorns. I'm really enjoying it. The one thing is we have cats, and the bottom is just like perpetually covered in cat hair. So whatever. Oh, my zipper got stuck. Hold on. It's not a big deal. So anyway, that's the smaller size that I made me. Pocket. So fun. Never selling them, but totally worth learning how to make if you are interested. So speaking of shameless self-promotion, okay, we are at 38 minutes and y'all, I hope, do you need to take a break, get a snack, go pee, whatever. Do what you need to do. I won't know. Oh, another sewing thing, real quick, a plan sewing thing. So we are members of a historic cemetery. I love it. Here in Atlanta, called Oakland. Oakland is probably my favorite thing to go visit in Atlanta, and when we bought our house, we're a lot closer to it. It is a Victorian garden seminary. That's a slip. Cemetery that it's open to the public. It is beautifully landscaped, and their foundation is awesome, and they do all kinds of cool events. So they do, around Halloween, they do a walk called Capturing the Spirit of Oakland, and they have, it's just so me, they have people dress up as, they call them residents, as deceased residents, and tell their story, and they're really sensitive around issues of race and gender and religion, because Oakland is a fairly diverse cemetery, and so there's a Jewish section because Atlanta had a large Jewish population, so there's a Jewish section, and it's just very well done, and it's all volunteers, and we love it. And so they do like beer tasting stuff, they do tours. If you are in Atlanta, highly recommend. I'm just a huge fan. But one of the things they do is Sunday in the Park, which draws on a tradition from the Victorian era of people going and just like hanging out at a cemetery on a Sunday afternoon, which I love. My little spooky heart's all over it. And so we went last year. They have a historic costume contest. So last year I made a full-on Edwardian walking suit and like basically went as Anne of Avonlea with my red hair and my boater, and it was very fun, and I won the best handmade, which I really wanted to do. I didn't need best historic, but I did need best handmade, and I made all of the judges look at the French seams on my walking skirt like a total dork. So I definitely want to do it again. I did not particularly enjoy making that costume. It was very stressful. You know, and it's a costume, so it's not like something I'm going to wear all the time. So this year, as I have been sort of leaning into a different side of my style, which is a little bit less, I don't know, frilly, maybe? Is that the word? I decided, and as I picked up the Elizabeth Peters, Amelia Peabody books for the first time since high school, they're better than I remember because like they're so tongue-in-cheek about Victorian white ladies, like just delightful. Anyway, so I was like, I think I want to go as a lady archaeologist. Now, I'm trying to figure out like how to do this in a way that isn't also, hello, I'm a white lady here to steal your cultural artifacts. Like there's something about glorifying that does make me a little, like I feel it. But I think what I'm going to do, which may not, I don't know, like it may still be tacky, is just lean full into the like over the top costumey aspect of it, with an understanding that, I don't know, maybe that understanding won't come across. But we did watch The Mummy. Somehow I missed The Mummy the first time I came around, even though I was the perfect age for it. I don't know. I have weird gaps. So anyway, like we're kind of thinking like Evie, like that's kind of where, like I am a librarian. We are going in that direction. So I'm going to do the Patina blouse from Friday Pattern Company, which I've done the short sleeve version of. There's tons of pictures of me wearing it on Instagram because it's one of my favorite things to sew and wear, which has like a big wide collar, but I'm going to do long sleeves and roll the sleeves up. I am going to do the Evelyn skirt, which is intentional, from Wearing History Patterns, which is so fun. I'm going to do that in a khaki twill. And all of these seem, the skirt's going to be a little more of a challenge. The blouse will be fine. I do not want to have to dedicate 3 weeks to sewing this and crying like I did for the Edwardian walking suit, so we're going a little more. And I'm going to get a big giant hat with big ivory tulle and gauze and scarves, and I think I'm going to go, and this is the part where I'm like, oh, I think I may lean a little bit into Egyptian revival jewelry. So we're going with like a pastiche of this thing. And I hope it's not tacky. Like, I just, I try to be thoughtful. I mean, you will never, ever, ever see me wearing a fucking hoop skirt in the South. Like, that's not going to happen. Although, for the record, there are pictures of me doing so when I was like age 11 at Cypress Gardens in Florida. So if those surface, I was a child, I have moved on. Okay, so anyway, I'm excited about that. I think it'll be a costume that feels a little bit more like regular sewing and less like costume sewing. I have really great Victorian boots, so we're just gonna lean in and we'll just dress Stephen up like Brendan Fraser. I'm not mad about that. So I'm excited about that. I think it's going to be a fun process. I hope. The blouse is fine. We know it fits. It's fine. I have to learn how to sew sleeve plackets, but I think I can handle that. So that'll be coming up. I'll probably be talking about that a little bit more over on the Instagrams. Okay. Oh, 45 minutes, y'all. So, shameless self-promotion. Okay, from here on out, is going to be shameless self-promotion and then me blathering on about like the stuff that I'm into, which is not overly exciting if you don't care about life chatter. So if you are ready to duck out, great. Thanks for stopping by. Have a great rest of your day. It's good to see you. If you would like to hear me blather on about shameless self-promotion, here we are. Okay, so I am vending at the Super Summer Knit Together in Nashville on Saturday, July the 22nd. The market is open to the public, I think 1 to 5. There's a $5 admission fee. It's at the Scarrett Bennett Center. I have not done a show in 4 years. I'm not a big show person. When I first started out, I got rejected or waitlisted at everything I applied to, except for like one small regional one, which was lovely, and I had a nice time. But it's I'm not really a show person. I mean, I started doing, I do open studio, and so I just have everybody over to my house, and it's a lot less hassle. But I've always wanted to vend at SSK. It is the makers that I really like, and sort of the corner of the yarn world that I feel is the most like me, as opposed to some of the larger shows or the more like status-driven dyers. It's kind of the like, SSK is like the Southerners and the Midwesterners. Like, we're very different humans. And so I am really, really excited. I'm reaching for yarn, sorry. I'm really excited. I'm mildly terrified. Steven's coming with me. All of the prep is done, which is always kind of nice when that's done early. And so I'm in physical recovery mode. But if you are near in or near Nashville, or you're coming to SSK, please let me know below, because I'm always afraid that I'm going to throw a party. Not that it's my party, but whatever. My booth is my party. That I'm going to throw a party and no one's going to come. Let me know if I can expect you. I've made a lot of stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff. But I'm not going to show everything because it feels weird to be like, I made all these bags and you may never see them again. But I'm going to talk about a couple of things. I have some new colorways, which is very fun. So I'm going to start with the one that I showed you in my socks. So excited. So I have tried and failed to get the perfect hot coral my entire dying life. I love hot coral. Hot pink is great, but I love a hot coral. And there's a new dye on the market, and it's the perfect hot coral. And so I'm so excited. This fits right into my jam. It is black light reactive, if you would like to have a rave. And it's amazing. I'm obsessed with it. So its name is Electric Disco Clam. There is a species of clam that lights up in a pulsing manner, and I don't know if that's not the scientific name, but it is what it is widely called, is the electric disco clam, and it's like a hot coral. It's amazing. Steven has a song about it. I'm hoping we're going to record a music video of Steven singing Electric Disco Clam, because it is quite the earworm, and you're welcome, and also I'm sorry. So I've dyed this on everything. It just makes me so happy. It is pretty much exactly this color. Like, it glows. So lots of electric disco clam coming to SSK. It'll also be a regular. Oh, that's the thing. If you're new, my colorways are almost always repeatable. I do not thrive on FOMO. I do not, like, that's not saying everything's going to be available all the time, because I'm one person and I can only do so much and have space for so much. But everything you see, if it is not in the shop in the next update, it'll come back. You can also always pre-order a sweaters quantity if you can't live without it. We like to keep it relatively chill around here. So that's Electric Disco Clam. This one, I am very, very fond of this one. I'm going to take off the label so you can see it in all of its glory. I love it. This is Unicorn at Jazz Fest. I am originally from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and I grew up going to the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival, which is very fun. And when I was growing up, when my parents got married, they were really broke, and the only art they had in their house, and they would buy one a year, they would buy a poster. There's like a commemorative poster from Jazz Fest. They would buy a poster and have it framed. And so, which means I grew up with all of the art in my house being giant, framed, very, very fun lithographed posters. And so, like, the colors, and like, my parents got married in 1976, and so I think they have almost every poster from like 1970, I think the first year was 77. I think their first poster 78, like 1978, and they had them like through the early 2000s. They stopped at some point because they ran out of wall space. And so I grew up with these like really, really bright, loud posters, which is probably why I'm the way that I am. And I dyed a first version of this and liked it, and then I tweaked it a little bit and besotted. It is a highly variegated yarn. If you knit this in plain stockinette, you're going to have some weird ass flashing and pooling, and you might hate that, and then that would be bad. Highly variegated yarns are great for some things and not for others, unless you love pooling and flashing. Some people love when like there's chunks of yarn and you can see, like, people love that. I don't, but you might. So this is Unicorn at Jazz Fest. It is just full on neon rainbow. It has teal. It has hot coral in it. It has hot pink in it. It has hot purple in it. It's just like all the things. Big fan. So that is coming with me to SSK. I think I have it on BFL sock, Merino sock, and BFL DK. So that is coming. Yay. And now for something completely different also. I mean, I was just like leaning full into my neons. So, except when I wasn't, and we're going to talk about that. So, y'all saw this. This is Ramble On. So, this is the burnt orange that I'm making my Jones cardigan out of. I have this coming on a lot of things too. I think it's on BFL Sock, Pure BFL, BFL DK. I don't think I did it on Ramble A, which is very sad because every time Steven says Ramble A, he sings it to the tune of Ramble On. But this will definitely be coming back, especially in the fall, because it's the pumpkin spice color. It really is the same color as my hair. I wonder if that's going to be in a sweater. Whatever. I don't care anymore. So it's a tonal. I know I talk about this, but I love a tonal. God, I love a tonal. They're so good in garments, and they're not as flashy, right? Like if you see this, you're like, oh, it's a color. But like there's a lot of, because of just how I dye and how yarn takes dye, there's a lot of just really subtle variation, and they're really versatile. I'm a big fan of a tonal. So those are the new colorways. I have some returning ones that I haven't dyed in a while. Like if you are going to be at SSK, there's going to be a lot. There's no way I'm going to sell out because I am not. So whatever is left, there will be a shop update. And then I'll start moving into fall stuff anyway. So again, there's always yarn in the banana stand. We've been rewatching Arrested Development. Ooh, does it hold up forever. So that is that shameless self-promotion. I am not going to do a full bag preview, like I said. I will be bringing regular, like project bags with like unicorns and I don't know what is, like a lot of unicorns. There's a lot of unicorns and moths, like my regular project bags. However, that's an attractive angle. However, I have also been ice dyeing fabrics. I have not done this in a year. I don't know why I forget that it's a thing I can do. I think it just takes up it's like a different part of my brain. I have to get ice. It's a thing. So I actually started ice dyeing before I learned how to do anything. That ice dyeing was my gateway to the fiber arts, because I was like, oh, maybe I actually do it, because I never thought of myself as creative or artistic. And then I started ice dyeing, and I was like, oh, I really love color, and I got really into it. But it was before I learned how to sew, and so I ice dyed all the shirts and skirts and whatever that I could, and then I kind of just stopped doing it because why? Well, last summer I picked it up again, and I have all the I started ice dyeing in like 2015, and I made project bags, and I had so much fun doing it. And I decided when I knew I was going to be vending at SSK that I would want to do some project bags. So I'm going to show you those, and then I'm going to try to talk you into trying ice dyeing. So I'm going to have a couple of the sweater weather bags coming. So this is one. It's one print. It's so fun. Oh, it's so fun to do, and it's so unpredictable. Like if you have a grasp on color theory, you can make stuff that's not ugly. This is another one. So these are the sweater weather size, the sort of medium project bags. I did dye quite a few sock bags, so we're going to run through those. So there's one. Oh, let me pop them open because y'all don't necessarily know what. There we go. Here's one. This is looks like maybe not my usual colors, but I do love some earth tones. I think I just like color. And this one, it's a little more subtle. And this is the same pink. The funny thing is, I dyed all new fabrics, and I realized I had a little bit left over from when I did this last year, and I dyed almost exactly the same colors, which means I am very consistent. I like what I like. So that's another one. So there's quite a few of these. I did sock bags and sweater weathers, and there's a couple teeny of the little pyramid, the ones that are like the tiny version of these. I'm probably not going to do any more for SSK, but I did because I'm me. I have more ideas, and I ordered more fabric. So it's a fun thing to do. So let me try to talk you into doing ice dyeing. Okay. If you have ever done tie dyeing at summer camp, you can handle ice dyeing. It is a very similar process. What you do is you soak fabric, any cellulose-based fabric, so anything that comes from a plant, including rayon, which is horribly processed, but still counts as cellulose fiber. You soak it in soda ash and water. You lay it out in a tub. I use my dye pans. You put ice on top. You put some combination, however you want, of ice and dried dye. You sprinkle a little soda ash over, and you let it melt, and that's it. It takes some time to figure out what colors you like together because of the dye is not in solutions, colors will split. So like, I will tell y'all, there is black in here. And like, is there though? Because it splits into like, I think this is the black that's splitting into it'll split into purple. So complex colors split into their components. So as long as you know that. I've made very few truly ugly things. I've made stuff I liked better than others, but I've made very few ugly things. We buy the 7-pound bags of ice from the gas station. And it's really fun and really satisfying. And I think there are tons of YouTube tutorials. There are people who do it really well, who like can show you resist techniques. I literally just throw ice and dye and soda ash on and have a lovely time. So it's a really good summer activity. You can do it outside. I would probably recommend doing it outside, actually. Make sure you wear your PPE, so wear a dust mask, because soda ash is yucky and corrosive, and powdered dyes are gross, and you don't want to dye a rainbow lung. So that's my other thing. I did a reel about it. It's really fun. It is a fun activity. If you sew, you can make really beautiful fabrics. If you don't sew, you can make really beautiful clothes. You can use any resist technique you use on tie-dye, so you can use rubber bands, you can do patterns, you can do kind of whatever you want. It's very fun. I got all the supplies from Dharma Trading Company. The color selection on the Procyon fiber reactive dyes is insane. It's like 9 times what it is for acid dyes that I use on yarn. And it is very fun. It is a fun and wholesome activity. Highly recommend. So there we go. If you don't feel like ice dyeing, you just buy my stuff. I've thought about selling fabric, but it's like not as fun. And it's amazing to me just how fabric always looks 10,000 times better made into something. Like I will look at yardage of my ice dyed fabric and be like, nah, it's okay. And then I'll make a bag and be like, oh, it's so beautiful. So just ice dye. Super fun. Okay. 56 minutes. How you holding up? You good? I have life chatter. So here we go. Because I feel like I haven't talked to y'all in a while. So life chatter. We have 3 hummingbird feeders. I have never been so obsessed with anything in my entire life as I am with our hummingbird population. So we put one up. We put a hummingbird feeder up a couple years ago and like got the red liquid stuff from Lowe's because I thought that's what you were supposed to do. And we would see one occasionally. Like we never changed it. Like we didn't take care of whatever. It was fine. Well, at the beginning of the year, I was like, let's not give them. Let's actually just try making it. It's sugar water. So I like went on the Smithsonian's bird site and I got the little recipe and I put one out, and all of a sudden we started seeing hummingbirds, like a lot of them, and I am obsessed. They're the best. They are the cutest little territorial assholes ever. They fight with each other, they yell, they get pissed if you like take the feeder down and change their food. I got like dive bombed when I was hanging it back up. I mean, they're just like the cutest little high-strung assholes. Highly relatable as a species, I might add. My mother-in-law calls me her little hummingbird. So we really enjoyed one, and I was like, well, we were at Lowe's, and I was like, let's get another feeder, and then we got a 3rd feeder. And so, like, I think we spend more time taking care of the hummingbirds than we do the cats, but we have so many, and they're pollinators. Our garden, we put one in the front of our house by our garden, and so they're pollinating the garden. We have giant hibiscus bushes and they're pollinating the hibiscus bushes. I mean, like they're great for an ecosystem. They are such little pigs and I love them. So that has been like no small part of my entertainment this summer is watching the hummingbirds. So we are hummingbird people. My grandmother was, my paternal grandmother loved them and like always had multiple feeders. So I just feel like I'm following in her footsteps, which is great. Okay. I have a list. So that's one thing I've been up to. The other is, I don't know if this is going to be interesting, but I'm going to tell y'all anyway. After many years of being resistant because I have a really obnoxious, not like other girls streak in me, Steven finally got me to watch Kiki's Delivery Service and start watching the Studio Ghibli films, and I am here to say in front of the whole internet that I was wrong. I was wrong to resist. Oh my gosh. Why did I not? Just a special. Okay, so we've only watched so far, we're rationing them. We've watched Kiki's Delivery Service, that was the first one. And we watched My Neighbor Totoro, which was delightful. Kiki's Delivery Service, though, Y'all, that is a movie. It is a children's movie about community care, about burnout. There's a cat. There's a bakery. Like, it was so charming. And the English version is dubbed, like, Phil Hartman is the cat. Kirsten Dunst is Kiki. Janine Garofalo's in it. Like, because it came out in 1997, so it's, like, literally my entire vibe is all the voices. And I cried. Just absolutely charming. Wow. So that was amazing. So I'm sorry I've been wrong. I think we're going to do Howl's Moving Castle next. They're all on Max, and so we have Max, formerly HBO Max. We have it. So we are working our way through the Studio Ghibli films. I am very sorry for everything. Like, when people were like, you should watch this, and I'd be like, no, I was wrong. Disney who? I don't know her. I'm not a Disney person, but like, man, just the cultural differences in, like, these are the children's movies, and they're, as Steven said, the only villain is existential, and I love that. Like, the characters aren't perfect, they get cranky, but it's not this, like, stupid Joseph Campbell hero journey individualist thing. It's a lot about community. Like, there is personal growth, but it's not, the focus is not on, like, the one central character. So far, they're, like, girly princess free, like, this sort of understanding of autonomy is different. Like, it's just, they're not so fucking heterosexual. Just absolutely delightful. And so the day after we watch Kiki's Delivery Service, we have a new bookstore. It's not in Atlanta. It is way out in the exurbs, like 45 minutes away, which we do not normally venture outside the city limits like that. There is a new bookstore that, best I can tell, is like the Barnes & Noble of Japan. And we went, and I got a Kiki's Delivery Service bento box and utensils that have chopsticks and the cat, and it's just delightful. Delightful. Highly recommend. Okay, so that's one thing. Speaking of things that I am into that are possibly not exciting, I have gotten really into nail polish. I feel like I'm just reverting to this is how you know you're doing adulthood right, is when you, like, turn into your healthiest, most realized version of your 13-year-old self. So I have gone really into nail polish. If you are a color person, the indie nail polish scene is every bit as bonkers, fun, dangerous as the indie yarn dyed scene. Like, possibly a little less toxic, frankly, in so many ways. But a friend who is a knitter got me onto it, and I ordered some polishes from, like, some boutique companies, so ILNP and Cirque, and I had a really nice time, and then I, like, kind of fell all the way into the true indies. Oh my gosh. Y'all, nail polish has come a long way since 1996. They have thermal color change nail polishes. I'm wearing one now. It's actually cold right now. A lot of the pigments are the same ones that I use in my buttons. Like, I can recognize them, and so there's just the effects that these makers are getting with nail polish is so fun. And my hands work really hard. I literally make a living with my hands, and it's like a nice little self-care thing, but also I'm obsessed with color and have gone completely overboard, as I think everyone who starts on this. So if you have no self-control like I do, you may not want to go down this path. But if you're just going to lean into having no self-control like I have chosen to do, then have so much fun. Feel free to message me and we can talk about it. So I'm just having a really nice time. I'm doing my nails every couple of days because, I mean, my life is hard on them, especially when I'm in the studio. I wear gloves, but there's something about, like, it's gross, but like your hands get sweaty and whatever, and gloves and stuff peels off, and like they have a hard time. When I wasn't in the studio or sewing a lot, my nails grew really long because I've been taking good care of them. But it's fine. I get to change up colors, and all of that stuff is so much better than it used to be. Like, there's the quality of, and I think within them there's not as much crap. I mean, it's nail varnish. It's not like great for you, but it just feels like stuff isn't as hard on your nails as it used to be. So I'm having a really nice time, and I went to visit my parents, and I brought my mom some, and I spent this my mom has always had, my mother is a proper Southern lady. I am not, but my mom is. My mother has always done her nails. She did an at-home manicure every week on the back of a Kleenex box as her, like, little thing, and her nails she never like looked like a drunk toddler painted them, which is how mine still look. But she always had her nails done, and so I was like, I'm going to get her some very, like, they'll be sparkly and holographic, but, like, very much her colors. And then I bought her a couple of, like, really crazy multi-chromes, and she was like, Mauve who, I don't know her, give me all the crazy stuff. So my mom's gotten into it, which is really sweet. It's very fun. I think it's like anything, you know, I'm not a beauty person. Like, I haven't worn makeup in 7 years. Like, I dye my hair because this color doesn't exist on my natural hair and I need this color. But I miss the whole beauty YouTube thing, whatever. But the nail polish is just very fun. And yes, you can do too much. I have done too much. There's the same thing, you know, with like when there are certain dyers who do yarn drops and like the FOMO stuff picks up and, you know, it's like that. But there's also lots available. So I have had the best time. So I am just like coordinating my nails to my yarn. If you follow me on Instagram, you'll see this. Like, I'll coordinate my nails to my yarn. I'm just really enjoying it. It feels like a nice thing to do for myself. It's another way to play with color, and also thermal color change is just amazing. I have ones that are thermal color change and solar color change. So just, I'm never bored. Very fun. Okay. So seriously though, let me know if you want to talk about nail polish. Seriously, because I'm here for it. Couple of cookbook things. I'm here. Okay. So I have been, I don't know. It's summer. I don't cook as much this summer. Steven does a lot of our day-to-day cooking, honestly, like, or we do it together, but I do like to bake. I've always liked to bake. So I got a new to me. I made a recipe. I think I might have talked about it actually. A recipe from this cookbook author on Food 52 that was a lemon ricotta cake that was freaking amazing. And it was like a one bowl. You use a scale. Highly recommend baking with a scale, Americans. It was like the best. I think it was the best lemon cake I've ever had, and I enjoy a good lemon cake. And it was easy, so good. So I made the lemon cake, and I immediately ordered the cookbook. So it has food on it because I've been using it. It's Jessie Sheehan Snackable Bakes. It is, her whole thing is you don't have to soften butter, which I don't know about y'all, but like if I have to soften butter, it's automatically a project. And everything comes together pretty quickly. This is not just like an easy cookbook. It is an outstanding cookbook. Everything I've made in here has been exceptional, like really, really good. And has that, my mom and I talk about this a lot, is how the best recipes are like a lot of bang for your culinary buck. And so stuff that is not overly, because I find that there's kind of a law of diminishing returns when it comes to complicated things. Like the more time I spend on something, the more, like the better it has to be to match the effort. I feel this way about a lot of stuff actually. And this is that perfect in that sweet spot. I made the Mexican chocolate pudding cake, which was incredible. I made and I think it might even be one bowl. I made the tiramisu, which was like gold standard for tiramisu. Just excellent. Easy to put together, no bake, perfect summer thing. I'm trying to think, is that all I've made from? I've made other stuff from here. But anyway, absolutely delightful. Highly recommend. Also, she's charming. Like whenever I tag her in my stories on Instagram, she says thank you. I mean, just really sweet. So, Snackable Bakes, Jessie Sheehan, highly recommend. I bought a copy for my mom, so she's been going through it too. So, good times. I am sure I've talked about this, but I need to tell a story. Okay, this is my other just of the moment love, and by of the moment I mean the past solid year. This is Bread Toast Crumbs by Alexandra Stafford. I have been making the no-knead peasant bread recipe for years. It was a Food 52. It is easy, fast, no-knead bread. You have homemade bread in like a couple of hours with very little effort. I love it. And finally, I was like, okay, I need the book. I did need the book. The book is amazing. It has all kinds of variations. It has different ones. It has my favorite that I make probably every week is the maple oatmeal bread. And like we're talking, you get the scale out. You can do overnight rises. Like I can mix up bread dough like while we're cooking dinner. I mean, it's magical. It has changed our lives. The texture of the peasant bread is, because you don't need it, it's not like as fine crumbed as a traditionally kneaded yeast bread, but it's delicious. It holds up really well. It makes excellent toast. Like, we've loved it. Well, I've been cooking from this cookbook for a year, and I don't know, I guess there wasn't a picture. I don't know what it was, but there is a recipe for Earl Grey tea bread. Now, Earl Grey bergamot is like my favorite flavor in the whole world. So as soon as I am done yammering on here, I am going to go make some Earl Grey tea bread. I'm sure it will be absolutely delicious, but I think it is so funny. I just noticed. I was like flipping through. I think I was looking for something, and I was flipping through, and I was like, how did I miss this? What is wrong with me? But yeah, it's delightful. There's a cinnamon swirl bread. Anyway, highly recommend. It really has kind of changed my life. The other fun thing is you bake the loaves, not all of them, but a lot of them, you bake them in 1 quart Pyrex bowls. So if, like me, you have a sizable vintage Pyrex collection, the smallest Cinderella bowls with the little handles, or just the smallest mixing bowls, are 1 quart. Or if you need an excuse to buy vintage Pyrex, which, do you need an excuse for that? I haven't found one. Anyway, it's delightful. So I'm going to make Earl Grey tea bread this afternoon. Whew. Y'all doing okay? Okay, I think that's it. I don't know. I'm not a YouTuber. Like, I don't all like 50 of you. I'm not going to monetize this channel. I am not interested in that. I would rather make stuff, but I do like having a place to talk about things. So I don't know about, like, when I started in February. I was a little more regular. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I do appreciate y'all being here and watching these. It's nice to chat. If you are coming, like I said, but I'm going to say it again, if you are coming to SSK or as a retreat participant, or if you are coming to the market, please let me know. I will be there. I'll be wearing a unicorn dress. You won't be able to miss me. Come say hey. I like when people say hi. Okay, I think that's it. Well, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, that you have all of the good crafts and all of the good snacks and all of the good animal cuddles and whatever makes your heart happy. And I will see you next time. Bye.